point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 330th edition of Energy Week. 330.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, doesn't it? Okay. Every day I get up and I go to the internet, see what I can find in regards to news for energy and climate change.
And you usually succeed in finding some weird stuff.
Yeah. and I find usually 15 articles, sometimes fewer, but it's usually 15. And I do a synopsis and a link for each so that you can go through a blog posting that I've got, which assembles them all, and look at the original articles by clicking on them from the blog. The blog is geoharvey.com. Sorry for the name. It's based on my name, but, you know.
How clever.
Not clever. I just couldn't think of anything good, so that's what I came up with, you know. I thought it would be easy to change. You can't change it. Anyway, it is geoharvey.com, and if you go there and click on the calendar on a specific date, you can find the 10 to 15 articles that were put up on that date. And we will keep you apprised of the dates from which we're reading these news articles, so that if you want to look at one.
Well, some of these are well worth looking at.
Oh, yeah.
There's some good stuff in there.
There is some of it. There was one article this week that was just shocking. And
you'll tell me that when we get to it.
I will tell you when we get to it. It's just, well, basically, it's the one in which there's a person who's a professor at, and this is in a BBC article, professor at, I think it was University of Sheffield, said that in her opinion, human beings will probably not survive climate change.
Yes, I read that article.
And you know, this is, I have a solution for that for people who are worried about it, and the solution is you've got two choices, one of which is get active, and the other is pray.
That's about it. Well, it seems that we've reached a point where the majority of people do believe in global warming.
Yeah.
But we still haven't gotten enough activity on the part of the people who should be acting like the government.
Well, you know, I had a friend, I put that in the past tense because he died. I mean, you know.
From global warming? No,
he didn't die. He was murdered by a cigar. Sorry, a bunch of cigars. But he was, you know, a free trade conservative who, you know, really believed that we need to have free trade, and free trade doesn't mean
no regulation at all.
It means no regulation at all, and I kept saying that just means the biggest shark is going to be the one who swallows everybody else.
That's basically true.
And he couldn't buy it.
Money talks. I mean, speeches. Money is speech.
Yeah, he used money is speech. Freedom of speech is. Yeah, freedom for money. He would read my blog and talk about how, yeah, we're going to do this with a free market. And the free market, I think.
Well, for one thing, there's no such thing as a free market.
I know that, but I think it has totally failed. Absolutely and completely.
In this particular case, what passes for a free market has totally failed.
Is a complete failure, and the reasons for this are clear. There is no mechanism in the free market, so-called free market.
This thing just died again.
Did it? No, that's not good. Can you get it up easy?
I clicked twice and it came back up.
Oh, good. Okay. So now
it's just going to sleep.
Okay. There's no mechanism in the free market to deal with pollution or environmental problems.
Not really.
Which means that they just get worse until they kill everybody. So what we've got to do, I think, is deal with that. And I would prefer people to be free. But, you know, There's a term I've looked it up. I'm not sure where it comes from, but it was the days before the kings in Israel, and it was referring to a time when there was no law. In those days, each man did what was right in his own eyes.
What he felt like.
Yeah, basically that's what that means, and that's what the free market is. And we're not free if we don't have some kind of legal structure to protect our freedoms
From the powerful.
There you go. And at one time, it was just whoever happened to be biggest and strongest.
It still is.
It still is. It's just a matter of strength has changed.
These are corporations now instead of people, but
yeah,
it's still
and I've got a solution for them.
Oh.
Yeah. Somebody said they would believe that corporations were people when the state of Texas executed one. And I thought, you can do that.
They do it all the time.
No, what you do is you say if a corporation is found guilty of a felony, then it has to reorganize as a B Corp.
Yeah.
And if it
That'd be good.
has guilty of a capital offense, then its assets pass into the public domain.
Oh, wow. That's radical.
Obviously, I'm pretty conservative, but I don't buy this horror of socialism that people have. That's the way Benjamin Franklin, was a socialist, according to one friend of mine, and we're not talking about energy and climate change, so maybe we should get going.
Theodore Roosevelt was a socialist.
Huh?
Theodore Roosevelt was a socialist.
Yeah, well, according to them, yes, he was. And anyway, so we're starting this week on the 1st of August. We've been flapping our gums here for the last 5 minutes. And we are going to start with a photograph. Look at that.
Yeah, let's get that picture
Let's get that picture up there.
This is a nice picture.
It is, and it's actually by the author of there you go. It's by the author of the article. This is from Clean Technica, and it's Jennifer Sensibo is the person who wrote this, but she also took that picture, which is a lovely picture.
Nice picture. It really is.
What do you have for a title for this, Tom?
Southwest monsoons getting more frequent and intense, and I presume they mean in America.
Yes,
I've never
Southwest
heard
in the
them
United
called
States.
monsoons before.
Oh no, they're called monsoons. Yeah, in Arizona and so forth. I have a granddaughter who lives in Arizona, and scientists studying monsoons, and a grandson also living in Arizona. Scientists studying monsoon rains in Southwest found that compared to 1970, storms are now producing 6 to 11% more rain per storm, while the time the storms last hasn't changed. In other words, the downpours.
We had one last night.
Oh boy, did we. This means each storm is not only dumping more water, but it's more intense. That one we had last night,
that was pretty intense.
It was intense. At my house, we capture rainwater to water the garden. Yeah. Okay. And we have facilities for holding about 450 gallons.
That's a lot of gallons.
Well, if you come to the house, you'll see it. It's not offensive to the eye, but anyway, we had basically run out.
Yeah, because it's been dry.
About halfway through that storm, I went out and buckets were put out to capture water coming off the roof. They were all full. Yeah. So I dumped them into the big containers, and when I came out again, 20 minutes later, they were all full again.
Wow.
We captured about 350 gallons of water in one downpour.
Wow.
So
yeah, we had a lot.
We had a lot, and that'll keep us going for a little while. So this, by the way, was on the 1st of August, which is the first day that we're doing this. So if you want to go to
1st of August.
Yep. If you want to go to geoharvey.com and read the article, you can read it.
It came from Clean Technical.
Came from Clean Technical.
And there's a quick takeaway here.
Yeah.
Seasonal monsoon thunderstorms spring up, drench a small area, and then go away. That happened here last night. Yeah. Why higher intensity? You can hold water. You can hold water vapor in a hotter atmosphere. You can hold more water vapor in a hotter atmosphere. So when storms are triggered, you release a lot more water.
Yeah, and so what happens is with a hotter atmosphere, anything that's in the ground evaporates more easily.
It goes right back in there.
And whatever is in the air will hold more.
Yep.
So when it's triggered to rain, it rains harder. So the harder rain is the rule. And you know, in Arizona, the rains are heavy enough that the stream beds, which are dry most of the time, suddenly flood. So they have big problems with flash floods out there.
The gulches.
Yeah, and you know they have signs that say "Do not enter on this area on wet roads."
Yeah, it's dry, and then there's a rainstorm and your car is floating. Whoop.
Okay, our next
I know what's going on
article
here.
comes from.
This is falling asleep.
Oh, is that
That's
what
what
it
it's
is?
doing. Yeah, taking a little nap.
Yeah. Well, move the mouse.
Well, I got it. Every once in a while,
Yeah. Okay. Our next item is from
Renews.
It's from Renews. That's right.
Energy storage to top 1 terawatt by 2040. That's a lot, guys.
That's a lot.
A lot of watt.
Huh?
A lot of watt.
A lot of watt. A lot of watt hour. Yeah, a lot of watt. Okay, I was going to say watt hours, but they're talking about watts.
They're talking about watts.
Energy storage will grow to 1,095 gigawatts by 2040 compared to 9 gigawatts last year.
9 to 1,090. That's a little bit of a leap.
A little bit of a change. Boosted by cheaper lithium-ion battery technology, according to new research from Bloomberg NEF, which is New Energy Finance. The 122-fold boom will require $662 billion of investment, said BNEF, in the, quote, Energy Storage Outlook 2019. That's not a quote, that's a title, report.
Well, they're making a lot of progress in storage, particularly batteries.
Well, it's so cheap.
Oh, yeah.
This is the thing. Energy storage is so cheap that it's putting the entire peaking business out
Everything's
of business.
changing.
Everything is changing. Yeah.
Well, the cost, this is an interesting step.
Keep your mouse going.
The cost of lithium-ion batteries has fallen 85% in the 2010 to 2018 period. Yeah. And it will be followed by a further halving of cost per kilowatt hour by 2030
and
as demand grows.
Right, and this is the storage that Los Angeles negotiated to get for 1.3 cents per kilowatt hour.
Amazing.
Isn't that? And they're saying that it's going to go down by 50%.
The majority of the new capacity will be utility scale. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's where the trend is, rather than behind the meter.
That's right.
So this is all big stuff.
They're expecting a boom in big stuff, that's right.
And this is a new era of dispatchable renewables. It used to be such a thing.
Well, there was hydropower and there was geothermal.
Yeah.
And
I guess they were both somewhat
dispatchable. But yeah, this makes solar power and wind power dispatchable. It means that it doesn't matter whether the sun's shining or not, you still got that.
Store it. You store it till you need it. Bingo.
You store it till you need it. And another thing too, really exciting, about 2 years ago, I did an interview with a guy who was working for a big battery company, and he said, you know, in I think it was Kuwait, someplace like that. It was one of the areas in the Gulf. He said they're building a huge solar array, and there's the transmission lines going to where the power is used are very long, and they had managed to point out to the people who were running this show that it would be much cheaper to put in a big battery
than to run that
line. Reduce the transmission line size by half.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that you're delivering power 24/7 instead of just when the sun is shining.
Yeah.
And it's much cheaper because the battery is cheaper than the transmission line. You got to use a lot of copper in a transmission line.
Well, they make it out of aluminum these days.
Some of it, yeah.
Most of it, yeah. Well,
it takes a lot of aluminum to replace a little copper.
Oh yeah, 2.5 or something like that.
2.5 times, yeah.
Something like that. Well, we used to say, "What's our oil doing under their sand?" Now we got to say, "What's our sun doing in their desert?"
That's right.
Because they got a lot of sunshine down there too.
They sure do. Okay, Our next item has a new picture.
Yeah, we got a good picture
and this is
coming
from
up here. Let's see if I can
India.
find it. Yeah, I think I can find it.
You think you can
trying to figure out which mouse to use. There we go.
Now just go to the other mouse and keep moving a little bit.
Yeah, so it doesn't go to sleep.
Yeah.
Second win for GE. That's an interesting picture.
Yeah, it is.
Because those are in India. They're making those things in India.
Yeah.
And they're the hubs.
They're the
hubs. Very large turbines.
And that big circle, and the closest one, if you look at it, you can see a guy in there.
Absolutely.
And that, as big as that thing is, that's what the blade bolts onto.
Absolutely.
And it has to be round because they change the pitch of the blade as it's being used. That's how you furl a wind turbine.
Yeah.
You know.
You change the pitch of the blade.
And if the wind is blowing really fast, you can tip it so that it doesn't turn quite as fast as the wind would make it go. So,
well, this is an interesting article. It's about GE in India.
Yeah.
And GE is starting to grow up pretty big in India. They're investing a lot of money.
Right.
And what it says here is second win for GE.
GE India is making a bold bet on wind power, disruptive technology, and a new business model. The company has patented a hybrid technology to make renewable power available to the grid 24/7. Remember those figures? Through different combinations of solar, wind, hydro storage, and managed by intelligent control systems.
This is interesting. This is a long and interesting article. I'd like to recommend you read it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of meat in it.
Second wind is an important thing here in case anybody's missing what's going on here. GE got into big trouble by making a big bet
on errors.
Especially on natural gas.
Yes.
They were expecting natural gas to grow like mad because of fracking. It never happened. And so they were out billions of dollars, many. And there were people, kind of saying, well, maybe GE isn't going to make it. And,
there's something interesting here. They talk about hybrid technology, and I didn't know what that was, okay? Yeah. And they say it makes renewable power available 24/7 to a grid through different combinations, solar and wind, solar and hydro and solar, storage if required, to be managed by intelligent control systems.
Right.
That's the key right there.
Yeah.
Because that's software.
Yeah, that's software.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah. I remember when my mother was told by my brother, my mother and her friend, that I was in the software business. And they had no idea what software was. They thought I was being a con artist.
Well, in this particular case, and this is so interesting, GE can co-locate wind turbines and solar panels in a single plot where there is abundant sun and wind, and using intelligent control systems, direct the energy through a single transmission line to the grid.
Yeah.
Now this is staggering.
It sounds easy.
This is new.
Yeah, it sounds easy if you don't know anything about it, but
it's not easy at all.
Yeah. Okay, we're up to Friday, August 2nd, and we're way behind schedule on this because we've been yammering. And we have an item from WMKY.
Yeah, it is. The Black Jewel miners block a railroad to demand pay from a bankrupt coal company. So we've mentioned this before, but they're going a little bit further on.
This is so upsetting. It really is. Some coal miners left without pay by the bankruptcy of the coal company Black Jewel LLC are protesting by blocking a coal train in eastern Kentucky. The standoff began when 5 miners blocked the train from leaving the plant, which is in Cumberland, Kentucky. These guys just went out and sat on the lines.
Absolutely.
And they did this.
They brought their lawn chairs in there, right between the ties.
And a bunch of other people came and joined them. And they had to do this in a place where the operators of the train would be able to see them well in advance.
Because and stop, because
you can't stop a train. You don't stop trains easily. And these poor guys, they worked, they put in the work, and then all of a sudden they're told,
we're not going to pay you.
We're not going to pay you. Or worse yet, that check we sent you
isn't going to work.
Is not going to be cashable. It's going to bounce. And these guys are out a lot of money.
Well, this company, Black Jewel, is a large company.
Well, there are almost 2,000 miners out of work.
Yes. They control 24 active coal mines and processing and prep facilities in Kentucky, Virginia, and West Virginia, and 2 very large surface mills in Wyoming.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, the majority of the company's 1,100 Appalachian miners have not been paid.
Yeah.
They simply told you guys, you know, bye.
And not only that, but their 401k accounts had not been credited with the money that had been withdrawn for
So they can't get the money out of their 401ks.
They're in deep trouble, and it's because this company, which by the way,
they're playing games. They're definitely playing games.
Well, the company exists because entrepreneurs saw coal mining companies going broke, and they said, wow, look at all these assets that they've got.
Yeah.
And they bought them, not realizing that stranded assets are stranded.
Say that again. That's wisdom.
Stranded assets are stranded. They were buying stranded assets and trying to act like they were legitimate, and they just weren't able to sell the coal. And on top of everything else,
no, that's the whole problem. Coal isn't worth what it used to be.
Yeah, and even so, the utilities that are depending on it are in some cases in trouble because of the high price of coal, even though it's priced too low for the miners. It's too low for the mines. It's too high for the utilities.
The times they are changing.
Yes. Okay,
we've got a picture coming up.
We do, and we have to move on. This is from Clean Technica.
Here.
And that picture is a solar plant in Portugal.
Portugal.
That's right. And it looks like it's in a vineyard country. Anyway.
Pretty good sized farm.
Yep, it is.
46 megawatts. That doesn't seem that big.
No? Stick your finger on it and see what it
Portugal bags the lowest cost solar power bid in the world.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The Portuguese Energy Secretariat received bids on 1.15 gigawatts of solar power. That's a lot of power.
Good amount of solar power.
It's a lot. That would probably, well, it's a lot of power. During the course of a year, it would provide most of the power that's needed for Vermont, I think. If we had something that big in Vermont. It's bigger in Portugal.
It probably would cover just about all of Vermont.
Yeah.
Yep.
1.15 gigawatts of solar power at an average cost of 20.33 euros per megawatt hour, which is $22.53 per megawatt hour. One of the bids...
That's 2.2 cents.
Yeah.
Per
one of the
hour.
bids was at 14.76 euros per megawatt hour, and that is 1.644 cents per kilowatt hour. So that kilowatt hour...
1.644. What are you paying for your cow power?
Probably close to 20 cents per kilowatt hour.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's at least 16 cents.
Yeah. The figure that I always think about when I think about low price of power is the figure that Entergy said, we're going to give you a price you can't refuse.
That was 6 cents, wasn't it?
6.5.
Yeah.
And Vermont went out and that was for
5.
Vermont Yankee. They went out and got a better bid from Hydro-Quebec on hydropower, so they bought hydropower at 6 cents. And that was not the cheapest power they were buying. The cheapest power they were buying was from a biodigester in Connecticut at 3.5 cents per kilowatt.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, but that biodigester was not going to be providing huge amounts of power.
No.
But this is 6 cents per kilowatt hour 10 years ago was a price you can't refuse, according 6.5 cents according to Entergy. This is 1.644 cents per kilowatt hour.
And they're selling it for 16. They're making a buck.
Probably a new world record. The bids represent investments of about 800 million euros, which is $887 million.
Portugal expects to be 100% renewable by 2040.
There you go.
They're almost there because they got a lot of hydro.
Yep. We have to move on. We're way behind schedule now. We've got an item here from Renews.
Yes, yes. U.S. boasts record wind activity.
Total U.S. wind capacity reached 97,960 megawatts in the second quarter of 2019, with a further 41,801 megawatts under construction or in advanced stages of development, according to data from the American Wind Energy Association. Work on more than 200 wind farms is underway across 33 states.
Yeah, wind is growing.
It's growing.
Let's move on.
Saturday, August 3rd.
And we have a picture
here of Joshua trees. You know, a Joshua tree is a type of yucca.
Yeah.
And yucca...
Come on, you. What the heck's the matter with it? Well, I can't get you out of the picture there. It's not me. It's not me. Look at that. It's not. That's the best I can do.
Well, you know, what can I say? Tom.
Oh, come on. This is not us. It's BCTV.
I don't know if people, well, it seems like you got it now. Those are Joshua trees. And we're going to have a future without them, which is maybe why Tom was having so much trouble. This is from CNN.
We may have a future without Joshua trees thanks to climate change. Ah.
Can you imagine a world without Joshua trees? Actually, if you hadn't told me about Joshua trees, I'd say, imagine a world with Joshua trees. I can't do that. A study from the University of California, Riverside scientist says that could be the new reality thanks to climate change. It says the hardy American desert trees could be driven to extinction by a drier climate. I would expect that you could move Joshua trees and have them grow in a different desert. But
well, they're desert tree. They only grow in Pacific Southwest. Only about 3 locations that are protected by state parks.
They're a type of yucca.
Yeah.
And the yucca, you know, grows around this area.
Different types of yucca, though.
Different types, but the yucca that grows around here, which just looks like the clumps on the ends of those branches sitting right into the ground.
Well, they're interesting. They're long-lived. They can live for over 150 years. 150 years, that's a lot.
Longer than I will.
The name, this is interesting, the name Joshua tree was given by a group of Mormon settlers who thought its unique shape reminded them of the biblical Joshua praying.
Interesting.
That's why we're trying to see. The scenario.
Okay. We've got an item.
We'll move on to the next one.
We've got an item here from CNN.
These are usually good to check out. There's usually some secondary stuff in there that's worth watching.
Yes.
Climate change made Europe's July heat wave up to 3% hotter.
The scorching heat wave that broke across Europe last month was made 100 times more likely and more intense and up to 3 degrees Celsius hotter by climate change, according to a study from an international alliance of meteorological researchers.
There's an interesting video here. It's a short one, 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And its title is "A Heat Wave Puts Iconic Landmark in Jeopardy." And that iconic landmark is Notre Dame that we talked about last week. Okay, and there's more in that little 1.5 minutes. Worth looking at.
It is. Okay, Seattle Times gave us this next one, and here we have a picture of a California solar farm. And are you going to have as much trouble with this one as you had with the last one? Anybody taking any bets? Oh, goodness.
There we go. Came up.
It came up, but I went away from the backup thing.
Well, we're going to put you in the back.
See? There you go.
Something's wrong with this
Something's wrong with it.
It's not me, guys.
Yep.
Well, we'll let you look at the picture again, and then we'll get yours up.
There you go. Okay, leave that up. I'm not good looking. Okay, this is from the Seattle Times, and you have a title.
California farmers are planting solar panels as the water supplies dry up. This makes sense.
Yep. Solar projects could replace some of the jobs and tax revenues that may be lost as constrained water supplies force California agriculture industry to scale back. In the San Joaquin Valley alone, farmers...
Joaquin.
Huh?
Joaquin.
Joaquin, okay. Farmers may need to take more than 500,000 acres out of production. And what's happening here is they have a law that says you're only allowed to pump a certain amount of water out of the water table.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So, and this is new.
There's not much water in the water table when it's dry.
Exactly. And, you know, if the farmers all pump the water out of the water table, it means that they all irrigate their farms and run out of water at the same time, so all of the crops are lost.
Well, what they're saying in this article is some of the farmland is lousy farmland anyhow.
Yeah.
And that farmers would be better off putting up solar panels than try to grow on that lousy land.
Absolutely. And we have seen so many pictures of solar panels being put up on agricultural land, and the agriculture continues.
That's possible too. Depends on what you're growing.
And there are kinds of agriculture
Absolutely.
that are done on land that requires very little water.
Well, we did talk about that about two or three shows ago.
Yeah.
And the increase in output of panels and crops is like 85% more than you started with.
Yeah, and you get an increase in crop production because the crops are shaded by the solar panels. This is
win-win.
not exactly what everybody would expect. Okay, we're up to Sunday, August 4th, with an item from Energy Reporters.
This is an interesting one. Germany hopes to replace coal with hydrogen. Now, Germany has been running on coal for a long time.
It has. Germany is increasingly looking to hydrogen as an alternative to gas to end dependence on coal. Last month, the Economy Ministry announced funding for 20 hydrogen research labs, and natural gas pipeline owners asked for rule changes to allow hydrogen to be added to the mix.
No, hydrogen burns.
It sure does.
It doesn't produce CO2.
That's absolutely true. And what we're seeing here is a very interesting thing where the people who are piping the natural gas can use the same pipes to pipe hydrogen.
Or mix the two.
Or mix the two. And that means that they can reduce their dependency on natural gas, which in Germany means reducing their dependency on Russia.
Or reduce their dependency on coal.
And to reduce their dependency
which they want to do.
Which they want to do. And where does the hydrogen come from? It comes from the sun and from the wind, which are not always...
It's renewable hydrogen.
Yeah, that's right. The sun isn't always shining, and the wind isn't always blowing, but by golly...
It's a way to store energy.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, let's move along. We got a nice little picture of a Tesla coming up.
We have a picture of a Tesla. I think we've used that picture before.
We have. We definitely have.
A couple of years ago, I think.
Well, it's a Tesla electric car, so...
Yeah, it is.
Let's see if I can't pull it up.
And this is an item from Clean Technica. Wow, it worked.
That's the Model 3, and it's all electric.
All electric. Well, every Tesla is all electric.
I think so. They don't make hybrids, do they?
No, they don't.
Big Auto's an existential problem. Cannibalize cash cows or evolve too slowly. This is an interesting article.
This is a big problem. The legacy automakers have a dilemma on their hands. Transitioning to electric cars is hard. A few German automakers have calmly voiced their concerns. Others have resorted to all-out whining. So what about Big Auto in the United States? Well, this article has a look. And by the way, this is related to another article that we have later on in this broadcast.
Okay.
Which shows a picture of a school bus. And
how come?
How come what?
How come you're not up on the screen?
No, this screen always has the picture.
We're all right.
Yeah, we're in business here. Okay.
Well,
basically what's happening with the school bus, and I'll mention this when we get to it.
Oh, yeah.
The school bus, it was built for an internal combustion engine, but as it appears in the photograph, it doesn't have an internal combustion engine. It's just electric.
A perfect job for it.
Yeah, and you would think that these guys...
It sits all day recharging.
Yeah.
Use it in the morning, recharge it. Use it at night, recharge it.
Absolutely.
Bingo.
And you would think that these people who are building cars would say, wait a minute, maybe we can take this particular designed Porsche or whatever and change it into an electric vehicle.
Not that easy.
Well, people do it with used cars.
You could do it on a one-to-one basis, but what they're talking about is changing the whole product line.
Yes, that's true.
There's a lot of research got to be done into that.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'll read a quick takeaway. Legacies, which meaning, GM, Ford, must expend additional capital in order to transition to manufacturing electric vehicles. Yeah, duh. Yeah. Shifting the focus to EVs will render their current factories, production lines, patents, designs, anything that specifically relates to internal combustion engines partly or fully redundant. They don't want to face up to that.
Again, this is the business of stranded assets.
That's exactly what's going on.
So, they've got tooling for a car. A lot of it, if nobody's running internal combustion engines anymore, the tooling to make V8 engines has no value.
Well, they're going to be dragging their feet. They're going to be left out in the cold, and Tesla is going to be one of the big guys.
Tesla is one of the big guys
already.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what the market capital of Tesla is, but I believe it's bigger than Ford, and it may be bigger than GM.
It's not bigger than GM, but maybe bigger than Ford. I think
it has popped into being bigger than GM.
It's doing well
from time to time. Okay.
Well, let's move on here.
Okay, our next item is from the Billings Gazette.
Billings, who ever heard of that? Coal strip owners' losses mount as hunt for cheaper coal continues. This is more on what we talked about above.
This is what's happening with the utilities needing cheaper coal.
Yep, absolutely.
While the coal miners are going out of work because the coal that they're mining isn't valuable enough.
Right.
With 2 of its 4 units shutting down this year, Colstrip Power Plant is struggling to find cheap coal and retain employees. Plant operator Talon Energy told Montana lawmakers. The company abruptly announced in June that it would close 2 units 3 years earlier.
Well, losing money.
Yeah, they were losing money, but those 2 units were supplying electricity to Washington and Oregon, which basically said we don't want energy that comes from coal anymore.
Well, that's another problem. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, these mines were owned by Westmoreland Coal, and Westmoreland Coal, as you've heard on this show, went bankrupt.
Went bankrupt.
Okay, so these guys bought the resources from the bankrupt Westmoreland, and now they're having trouble with them. And by the way, this coal strip, it's the name of a town.
Yeah.
The town was established by the Northern Pacific Railway in 1924 to provide coal for their steam locomotives. So it's always been a coal. There's never been anything in that town but mining, and now energy production.
Well, Montana is a good place for wind turbines. Montana's a
very good place.
Montana is a place they're just going to have to face the fact that they have to change to a different
model.
Model.
Definitely.
But they can do it. There are models out there.
They don't want to drag their feet. Well, this is what they know how to do best. So this is what they want to continue doing.
This is where
they got to move with the times.
The owners have got their assets that are being stranded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move along.
We're
here.
up to Monday,
yep.
August 5th, and we have an item from the Deccan Chronicle.
And we got a picture coming up.
And we have a
here.
picture.
This is a nice picture, too. Let's see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, let's do that.
I did.
Wow.
My golly, it's working again.
Okay.
Now, that's a tropical farce for what it's worth.
Yep.
And the title is The Overlapping Crisis of Climate Change is a Cause of an Ecological Land Grab.
The crisis.
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah, who'd have thunk? The crisis of climate change, unsustainable food systems, and mass species extinction are on a course toward what might best be called an ecological land grab. Experts who once touted win-win scenarios for the environment now talk about trade-offs. And the win-win here is, if we
I don't think it's win-win.
Well, they thought it was.
Yeah.
There were people who were touting years ago, not that many years ago, there were people touting the idea of putting in palm oil plantations.
Yeah, we'll see some of that on the way.
And yeah, it sounds good. We'll use palm oil instead of fossil fuel oil.
So they devastate the forest.
So they're devastating the forest. Okay, go ahead.
Overlapping crisis of climate change. Oh, I said this one.
You did.
A world of narrowing options threatens to pit biofuels, forests, and food production against each other. And this is the takeaway. There may not be enough land to go around.
Well, there is if we get smart about it.
Who says we're going to get smart?
Well, I talked for Green Energy Times. I did an interview with, what is the name of the company? I think it's called Leaf. L-E-F.
I remember that.
And it was in New Hampshire. They sell their stuff down at the co-op, and the people who buy it tell me that is absolutely delicious vegetables. They're salad vegetables. And they have a greenhouse, which is 1 acre, And that 1 acre greenhouse is producing 1 million pounds of produce per year.
Wow.
1
Right here in this climate.
It's in New Hampshire. It's just across the river.
Wow, how about that?
And you know, greenhouses have their own environments in them. You can.
Well,
they
that's
don't,
what they do. Yeah.
You know, this is how they work, and you can put them in places where you wouldn't normally expect things to grow, like out in the middle of a desert or whatever. You don't expect lettuce to grow in New Hampshire in the winter, but by golly, when it's protected by glass, sometimes it does.
It gets pretty warm in there.
Oh, it sure does.
Well, we talked about this one already in this show. The animals that will survive climate change.
This is from the BBC. With 1 in every 4 species facing extinction, which animals are best equipped to survive climate change? ? American bullfrogs might benefit from climate change, but some scientists say we humans, even with our extraordinary capacity for innovation and ability to adapt, probably won't survive.
Well, they explain that a little bit. Humans reproduce agonizingly slowly and generally 1 or 2 at a time. Generally. Organisms that can produce many offspring quickly have a better shot at avoiding extinction. And I guess bullfrogs are one of those.
Well, bullfrogs, yeah.
There is an alternative. We humans could get our acts together and stop the climate crisis from continuing to snowball by adopting policies and lifestyles that reduce greenhouse gases.
You know, one of the things that really bothers me about this whole thing is people who, if you say to somebody, I want to address climate change, if they come from the right environment to produce this result, they'll say, oh, that'll be too expensive.
Yeah.
Or, I don't want to live an uncomfortable life. I'm not going to live in an apartment where it's 50 degrees. Or I like eating beef. Or, and you can go down this long list of things. There's a long list, yeah. And what they don't realize is, if we address climate change, we're also going to be addressing at the same time air pollution. That is going to reduce our medical expenses. It's also going to reduce our food expenses. If we do those things, we're going to be able to live more comfortable lives. Air source heat pumps are cheaper than any fossil fuel for.
Right, yeah, they are. Yep.
And you know, you just go down this list of things. We're going to be saving money, and we're going to be making money because there's lots and lots of jobs involved. And you know, this figure that you hear, addressing climate change is going to cost, what was the figure, $100 trillion? Well, I got news for you.
That's going to be cheap when you look back at it.
We've got a choice. $100
climate
trillion
change is costing us money.
It is. $100 trillion means $100 trillion worth of investment. How would you feel about the United States getting, you know, 20%, 10% of that? All right, $10 trillion is going to be invested in the United States. And who does that benefit?
Well,
just think of the number of people who are going to be employed by that.
Yeah.
And it's worldwide. What they're saying is it's too costly, and that $100 trillion, as I understand it, doesn't include the cost of replacing the plants that would have to be replaced anyways. So the $100 trillion should actually have another figure reduced from it. People are throwing numbers around, and they're not dealing with the fact that climate change is going to destroy our economy if we don't deal with it. It's just a question of when.
That's basically true. Can't argue with you.
All right.
Let's move along here.
Okay, BBC. We have an item from the BBC. It's still Monday, August 5th, and we have a picture here.
I'm going to get the picture up, and we've already talked about it.
We have. That's a palm oil plantation, and it's an EPA picture.
Come on, picture.
There you go.
I think it came up, by golly.
It came up, it did. This is from the BBC.
Now, we were talking about palm oil, and that was a forest that they are now growing palm oil.
Yeah.
Bah. Oh, stop abusing land, scientists warn.
Scientists and officials on the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is called the IPCC, are meeting in Geneva to finalize a document on the climate. It will deliver a stark condemnation of the damage we're wreaking on the land surface of the planet with farming and land use that cause CO2 emissions. Really important. Farming can cause CO2 emissions. Farming can reduce. It
does, yeah.
It can reduce CO2
Depends on
emissions.
how you farm.
Absolutely. In other words, we've got to be smart. We're called Homo sapiens for a reason, and the reason is 100% wish.
Interesting, in this article, there's an image there about how the carbon cycle works.
Yeah.
And it's easy to understand.
Oh, good.
Be something quick to look at.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
Human
point.
activities have led to the degrading of soils, expanded deserts, felled forests, driven out wildlife, and drained peatlands. Okay? In the process, land has been turned from an asset that combats climate change into a major source of carbon.
Yep.
Scientists warn of a battle between multiple competing demands: biofuels, plant material for plastics and fibers, timber, wildlife, paper and pulp, and food.
Yeah.
They're all competing.
They're all competing, and we've got to deal with that.
Now let's move up to Tuesday, August 6th.
We have an item here from Think Progress.
Think Progress. As climate reckoning arrives over agriculture. What did we just talk about, didn't we?
Yeah.
USDA scientists face censorship.
Yeah, well, they don't want us to talk about it. Donald Trump does not want us and his administration.
Well, it's a hoax.
Yeah.
It's a Chinese hoax.
A government climate scientist who says the Trump administration buried a groundbreaking report he authored has left the U.S. Department of Agriculture in protest over the, quote, political views, end quote, top officials allegedly impose on his work.
They're playing a lot of games in the Trump administration with climate.
Yeah.
They're telling them what they can say, what they can't say. They're moving a whole bunch of them to Kansas from Washington.
They want to have these people not in the public view. But the problem is, if the climate is changing, and it clearly is changing,
no, that's a hoax.
At some point, people are going to realize that, and they're going to be really upset. And Greta Thunberg is, you know, the Extinction Rebellion. That
good for her.
Yeah, you know, this is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Because
those young people don't want their children, they don't want themselves to have to deal with it.
They are looking at the future.
They're looking at the future, and they have to. And, you know, it is
the future's
disturbing,
theirs, guys, you know?
When you consider children and the way they act normally, it is disturbing to think that they are the ones who are considering the future, because children don't generally do that.
No, don't do they? I got my game here. And,
that's right. Okay,
let's move along. Yeah, we got another nice picture coming up.
That is a picture of the Aletsch Glacier.
That's the largest glacier in Switzerland.
I was going to say that, and you took the words right out of my mouth. This is from Science Magazine.
Europe's record heat Europe's record heat melted Swiss glaciers.
According to initial findings from the Swiss Glacier Monitoring Network, Swiss glaciers experienced unusually high melt rates during the last two heat waves, hardly a surprise, which occurred in June and July. The network's head tweeted that Swiss glaciers lost about 800 million metric tons of ice. That's a lot of ice.
It is a lot of ice, and it's the latest continuation of a long trend.
Yeah, these glaciers have been melting for 100 years.
Since at least the mid-19th century, more than 100 years, really. And the losses seem to be accelerating over the last few decades.
Well, that is something that is disturbing, the fact that the losses are accelerating. I'm going to bring the glacier
up again. Come on, guy, what's the matter with this thing? That glacier has retreated by nearly 2 miles since the year 1870.
Yep. Yeah, we've seen this posts driven into the ground showing where the glacier was at some date, and you can't even see the glacier from there.
And this is about Switzerland, but it's happening in other parts of the world.
All over the world. Okay, we've got an item here from CNN.
That we do. They're usually good articles. And this one there's a lot of photographs in it. This one you can spend a lot of time looking at the pictures.
That's right.
July confirmed as the hottest month ever recorded.
July 2019 has replaced July 2016 as the hottest month on record. This July's global temperatures marginally exceeded the previous record, according to meteorologists of the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Program, which analyzes temperature data from around the planet.
Well, July was around 0.56 degrees C, more than half a degree centigrade, warmer than the global average temperature between 1981 and 2010. So it's still going up. The July record comes after a period of extremely hot weather around the world. Europe wasn't the only region baking. Anchorage, Alaska recorded its hottest month ever.
You know, Greenland, the North Pole, Alaska.
It's all getting it.
It's all getting slammed.
So look up this one and watch the pictures. They're good.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of good pictures.
Okay, we are up to Wednesday, August 7th.
We talked about this guy already.
And we have the item from Clean Technica and the picture that is about to go up, I hope.
If I can get this mouse to move.
There you go. The picture, which is about to go up, which, oh dear, I think it's up, is a Proterra bus. And the thing that's interesting about this is you look at that bus.
Oh, come on.
Man. You look at that bus and it looks like, you know what, Tom? If you put up the picture of both of us, the bus will be in the background.
Why don't we do that?
Click on it again.
It's not coming up.
There
we go.
Okay.
Guys, it ain't me.
That bus. See it? That bus. That's a Proterra powered bus. And this is a Clean Technica article. So what do you have for a title, Tom?
Proterra launches, quote, Proterra powered to help auto OEMs electrify their vehicles. So basically, they're exporting their technology.
Yes, electric bus company Proterra, which is, I think, the largest homegrown American bus company.
They make all sorts of buses, not just electric ones.
Oh, do they? Okay, I thought they were just electric. Electric bus company Proterra has a new vehicle electrification offering called Proterra Powered. It makes the same technology Proterra has used for its vehicles for years available to other manufacturers to use for theirs. Most recently, Proterra electrified Thomas-built buses Julie school bus, and that school bus in the picture is clearly, if you look at the front end of that thing, that was designed to hold an internal combustion machine. But it's an electric bus, so it doesn't have it certainly doesn't have to have a internal combustion engine. And as you pointed out, Tom, these things can sit around getting powered all day. You know,
they're perfect
application for these things.
They use it for a couple hours in the morning, they recharge it, use it for a couple hours in the afternoon, recharge it.
But the point is, Proterra is building these things so that they will fit onto a chassis that was originally intended for another kind of vehicle, I think.
Well, another kind of bus, anyhow.
Another kind of bus, yeah.
And, you know, they're exporting their technology. It's
Absolutely.
a smart thing for them to do.
Yeah.
They have unique expertise in the electrification of commercial vehicles, as Proterra has been building and selling not only electric vehicles, but the high-speed DC fast charging systems to recharge them quickly. And the energy management systems that tie them to the grid. So
there you go.
They got a package.
They have a package. Okay, our next item is from the BBC.
Okay, the next, there's no picture here.
No picture.
That's the next one. How shorter work weeks could save the Earth.
There can be no doubt that we are living unsustainably, but there's a novel idea that could turn that around. We work less, thus slowing down the global economy. This is somebody who's saying we should slow down the global economy. Good idea. And curbing our seemingly endless appetite to consume more stuff. Is that feasible? And would it really save the world? Well, it could help.
It could help.
It could help. And you know, we've had that, what's it called, Slow Living Summit?
Yeah.
For years.
We've had that for years, right.
And that's something that, I don't know if that's a Vermont thing or if it's all over.
I don't know the answer to that. Certainly local.
But the idea of
Slowing down.
Slowing down.
Yeah.
We do not need, you know, who was it who said that growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of the cancer cell?
Wow. That's a heavy one.
Yeah, it was an American writer, I think, and I don't remember which one it was.
Well, some takeaway from here. I don't know who said that, but
yeah.
Whoa, that's kind of scary, and it's accurate.
Yeah.
The human race faces two major challenges: overwork and climate change.
let's solve both in one.
Is the solution to degrow the economy?
Yeah.
If everyone in the world consumed the same levels of food, fuel, clothes, and building materials as Europeans, we would require 2.8 planet Earths. If they went the U.S. lifestyle, it'd require 5 planet Earths.
Yes.
Okay? If we spent 10% less time working, our carbon footprint would be reduced by 14.6%. A full day off a week would therefore reduce our carbon footprint by almost 30%. So this guy's not just shooting the breeze area.
Yeah.
He's got some serious thought behind it.
Of course, he's going to have to convince everybody to take a pay cut.
Well, that's one of the, that's what part of what the article is. What's going to happen if they don't take a pay cut and if they do take a pay cut?
Yeah, but the thing is, most people are living unsustainable lives, personally unsustainable lives. They're spending more money than they make a lot of the time.
Well, that's what advertising's all about.
Okay. Should we move on?
Yeah, we got another picture coming up.
Our last item is from BBC.
Yeah, let's see if I can find a way to get the picture up.
Why don't you just put us up, and people can see those are cows in the background.
Well, let's see if I can.
You want to try it? Well, there you go.
There we go. We got it.
Now, okay.
We sort of got it.
We sort of got it. I hope everybody sees cows on the screen.
There we go.
Those are just grazing cows. Okay.
Look like cows to me.
They sure do.
How vaccines could fix our problem with cow burps.
Livestock are responsible for up to 14% of all greenhouse emissions from human activities. And by the way, cattle are by far the livestock that are the most responsible, by far.
And it's methane that they're producing.
Methane, and this cow flatulence, people don't realize, almost over.
It's more burps than flatulence.
Well, flatulence is just gas, regardless of where it comes from, as I understand it.
Oh, I thought it was. Okay.
The thing is,
it's from cows.
It's from cows. But if you've ever hung around cows, which I have, they belch a lot, and you know it's just an ongoing thing. Livestock may be responsible for up to 14% of all greenhouse gas emissions from human activities. But scientists at Ag Research hope a vaccine targeting methane-making microbes could make it possible to reduce the contribution livestock farming is making to global warming. And the deal here is most of the methane comes from something like 3% of the microbes.
I got a takeaway on exactly that.
Yeah.
So let me read it.
Okay.
A hefty slice of global greenhouse gas emissions comes from livestock, whose gut microbes are responsible for producing methane as the animals digest their food.
Yeah.
The methane produced by ruminants, which would be sheep and cows, comes from about 3% of the microbes that live in the rumen, which is the first section of the gut.
Yeah.
The ag research company's aim is to develop vaccines that systematically target these microbe species. Get rid of that 3% and you've solved a big problem.
Yeah, and of course
They don't know if they can do it or not.
But. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so if you get rid of that 3%, is the cow going to be happy on what is going on?
Probably isn't even going to know it.
Well, it might not even know it, and on the other hand, maybe it's going to have to digest a whole lot more grass to get the food that it needs, and so we just don't know where this is going.
I'm trying to pull you up.
Why don't you put both of us up? Because
I don't know if I can do that either.
We're at the end of the show here.
Something definitely wrong with my controls here. Well, we got that one. Let's see if well, there
you go. Hopefully that's what people see.
There we go.
Okay, we are at the end of our show.
Good show.
Yeah, and so we should say goodbye to everybody. Have a perfectly lovely week, this thing behind us says. and I hope you come back next time.